You're listening to Batting 1000 with Dale Vermillion, where heavy hitters from mortgage, real estate, and business share their secrets for lasting success. With your host, industry icon, Dale Vermillion.
We're so glad to have you here today. Welcome to the podcast.
Dale, thank you for having me. You and Jake are both far too kind with your kind words and the invitation to join you today. I couldn't be more honored and excited to join you and speak with your audience and clients and all the folks who have followed you for advice and knowledge over the years.
Well, Clayton, we appreciate that. You know, your reputation precedes you, but I'm just going to mention a few things so people know. I know everybody knows who you are, but we'll just mention so they've got it. You are the CEO of HousingWire Media, and which I believe is the greatest publication in the entire real estate and mortgage industry. You guys are just leading cutting edge when it comes to getting information out there to mortgage professionals, to real estate professionals, and to the financial industry at large to help them understand what's happening. You've got a lot of background before that, though. You also are, I understand, the managing partner of Mark Capital, which is one of the owners that bought HW, HousingWire, and the media team. And previous to that, you were actually in the business. You worked for RBC for a while. You were with Citibank for a while in senior VP positions and vice president positions. So you've got a lot of background in that, and I'm sure that's helped you. And what I want to start with today is I want to just, you know, you're an incredibly successful guy at a young age who's done a lot of things, who's accomplished a lot of things, and been around a lot of people. I would love to hear a little bit from you about just a little bit of the story for the audience of kind of your upcoming through the mortgage industry, the things you've learned and gleaned, and just, you know, kind of what got you where you're at today, and what gave you the motivation to start HousingWire and lead that up as the CEO.
Well, Dale, I can tell you after having 3 kids under the age of 5 and almost 6 years in the mortgage media business, I don't feel so young anymore, but it's been a fast path. So I started my career in financial services. I kind of often joke with my team and folks around here that I'm just a banker helping media professionals grow a media company. And I've always seen my highest and best use at HW as being recruiting, developing, and retaining the best business media professionals we can to serve our audience of housing professionals and all of our verticals and real estate and mortgage and servicing and capital markets and title and valuation. Like our North Star mission is moving markets forward for those professionals. And like I said, as a former banker, I joke that, hey, I'm not the guy who's gonna cover the articles and uncover the news and develop the source relationships, but I will do the best that I can to recruit and give the people that can do that extremely well all the resources they need to serve the audience of housing professionals that we care so much about. So that's what I see my greatest role as being here. But my path definitely is a little bit unique. I started at Citigroup, and I mean, I was started right in the middle of the financial crisis, which can be looked at as a positive or a negative thing. For me and my professional development, turned out to be extremely positive. So in 2008. At the age of 23, I was managing a retail branch in Midtown Manhattan with more employees than I was years old. I hosted a retirement party for an employee when I was 23. That's something that I never thought I'd be doing. But that early leadership experience and arguably what was one of the most stressful times and hopefully that I'll ever see in my professional life in the financial system was extremely developmental and something that's definitely charted the course for the way that I try to lead today and the way I look at business and opportunities and progress and momentum and risk. And pretty defining experience at a relatively early stage in my career.
You know, I love how you parse that out, that even in the toughest times we go through in this industry, there is so much to be learned. And those who really pay attention and learn from that end up going into, great careers in the mortgage arena and the housing arena. Let me ask you a question, because we're talking about leadership here for just a minute. Tell me from your perspective, you've been a leader for a long time. You were promoted at a high level at a young age. What do you think, if you were to look back and say what the number one principle or the number one thing from a leadership standpoint that you feel is the single most important thing that leaders today could really learn from you or should be putting into their leadership repertoire, what would that thing be?
So that developmental experience at Citi and something that's kind of continued through my professional career at Royal Bank of Canada and launching Remar and now HW is communication. And that's communication to your team from the day you're recruiting those folks, how you communicate the story and the mission and the vision and the role and the responsibility to your current team members and making sure they understand the direction you're headed, the goals, the incentives, the challenges and the opportunities, reiterating those again and again and again. And then also managing up. I have an investor group and a board and folks that, that I need their support. I need their continued support year in and year out. And that ultimately is another communication game and communication challenge. So I think one of the things that I developed early and one thing that I still look to coaches and peers for support on is how to be a better communicator, communicating the things that your constituents need to know. Not too much. You don't want to stress people out about the things that they don't need to worry about, but understand the things that they need to know, the things they need to know to do their job well. And that's one of my biggest focus areas as a leader.
I love that. It's funny because I talk about the importance of consistent communication constantly in the corporate arena. And it is probably the biggest lag or missing piece that I see is managers just stay in their cocoons and they don't get out and they don't really get their teams understanding the vision of where they're going so they can vision cast out and see where that's headed. Give us a little bit, help the audience understand a little bit when you talk about consistent communication with your people and making sure you're both communicating down and up. And I loved how you talk about both the downward and upward spiral because it goes both ways. What are some of the strategies and techniques that you would recommend a leader in the frequency of that communication? What are just a couple of golden jewels that they can take that would help them in communicating with their teams in a better way, no matter what level you're at, whether you're a mid-level manager, you're an S level, you're a C level, doesn't matter. It all applies the same way. What are some of those things?
This is the first time I've kind of drawn this analogy, but I know in sales and in mortgage origination and in real estate, we talk often about communicating with your referral sources and your past clients and your future prospects, and you have to be where they are. So a lot of times in the mortgage and real estate world, that comes like, hey, are you on Facebook and TikTok? And are you doing Instagram reels? And are you sending out emails to your database? And are you attending local events? As a leader, you have to think about those same things. Like, where are your constituents? Where is your audience? So when I think internally, I have to go where my team communicates. And our internal tool at HousingWire, like at HW Media, our team's on Slack all day. That's how they're communicating with each other. That's how they're managing projects. That's how they're managing workflows. That's how they're doing the modern version of water cooler chat. So there's certain things that need to be communicated in that medium. There's other things that are more appropriate for email. There's other things that are more appropriate for the virtual town hall. And there's other things that are more appropriate when you bring everybody in. And we're based in Dallas. 50% of our team is distributed across the country now. We're bringing everybody in on the second week of December to do a holiday party and have some team meetings. There's other things that are just more important to communicate in person. So it's finding the right medium for that message, but then being consistent across the mediums and also being consistent across your management team and executive team to make sure that not just the CEO, but also your directors and division leaders have the same message, the same approach, the same strategy. And that's kind of the internal look. The investor group, the board, your clients, your partners and industry peers, like all different channels. So it's difficult to juggle all the different places and styles that we communicate in nowadays, but it's extremely important to be where the audience is. And that's something that also comes over to our media business. And we can't just be a newsletter company. We can't just be an events company. We need to be in the business of knowledge, in the business of audience, and go where that audience is. And for segments of our audience, that's social. For segments of our audience, that's newsletter. For segments of our audience, that's direct to housingwire.com or realtrends.com or reversemortgagedaily.com. For others, that's our events. And so we have to be where the audience is. And that's a communication skill that can play so widely in so many different roles and professions, and even in your home life. I recently joined an executive group where I get more exposure to other peers that are building businesses and other entrepreneurs. And I think one thing a lot of professionals don't think about as often is how important is communication in your personal life as well. I think there's a lot that I'm working on, that other executives in my network are working on, how to communicate better to their spouses and kids and parents. It's communication is really probably going to be my most important personal and professional focus in 2022, but something I've been working on for over a decade.
And with 3 kids under 5, you really got to work.
Yes, yeah.
On that side of it, so you'll learn how to communicate well. Yeah.
Yeah, and logic does not work.
I love it. Well, look, you unpacked a whole bunch of really powerful stuff there. I loved how you talked about consistency. I loved how you talked about knowing where your audience is at and meeting them where they're at. So important. Mm-hmm. And then defining the communication method. And I'm sure you'd agree to this. In today's world, we've got so many people working from home. We've got disconnected, sales forces, operations teams, support staff, administrative staff. We've got all this disconnect happening in today's business world. Would you agree that communication has never been more important than it is right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Communication has always been important, but the flood of information and flood of the good and the bad and the distractions and the entertainment and everything else that hits everybody nowadays, consistent communication has probably never been more important. I think there was a day where a leader, whether it was a politician or a CEO or the head of a household, could say something once and that message would carry. I think that's a very hard strategy to hinge on nowadays. I think there's an increased focus on saying it once and saying it again and saying it again and saying it again to reinforce and saying it again to add more detail, and that consistent flow of information, whether it's in the same medium or multiple mediums. I think that is what we can say, Dale, is more important now than ever.
Awesome. Love that. So let's talk for a minute. You guys just had your annual conference. Congratulations. Yeah. It was a huge success. And I'm sure that there was a whole lot of great information exchanged during that. Give us a couple of tidbits. As you look down the road at 2022, 2023 and beyond, the market's shifting. I'm right now spending a lot of time with my clients on really working them through a rising rate market, this inventory, riddled purchase market that we're in, these inflated values. There is a whole bunch of moving parts right now that we're helping clients understand how to work through and succeed in and be able to balance those and kind of create in all of that friction, how to make it much more succinct so that it's working. Give us a couple of the principles or a couple of the things that you heard and you saw talked about during that conference that you think are really key things that originators and lenders need to be thinking about going into these new marketplaces and the economy that we're in today.
Yeah. So I wouldn't advocate for anyone to have 3 kids under 5. I also wouldn't advocate for anybody to host an in-person event on the tail end of a pandemic. Hopefully tail end is true. The stress points all over the place. I think we had to iterate our strategy and our policy more times than I could ever wanted to do. Couldn't be more excited for 2022 when we're hopefully in a much more normal environment where everyone's comfortable getting on the road and taking off the mask and crowding in a room and doing the networking and community and all the stuff that we all value and desire so much. But I'll come back to the event now. So our 2021 HousingWire Annual is our first time doing HousingWire Annual as an in-person event. We launched HousingWire Annual in 2020 in the heart of COVID as a virtual event. Our strategy, our vision was that there's amazing events across the housing landscape in mortgage and real estate, in coaching and title. Like there's something for everyone, but what there isn't in what we're trying to build is something that brings everyone together. So we love going to the NBA. Half our team was out at NAR last week. We've been at a dozen other conferences in Q3 and the beginning of Q4. But what we really want to do is create an environment that brings together all things housing. So something that brings together the real estate brokers and team leaders, the origination leaders and the lending and IMB CEOs, the valuation experts, the title company leaders, the folks that are building the next generation of the housing market. And that is what we're seeking to do with HousingWire Annual. So this year was V1. We brought some amazing content to the stage. I have to say our content team really hit it out of the park, and that's something I guess you should expect from us. I'd say if we have one core competency, it is content and bringing the right people to the conversation. But the topics kind of continually reiterated a point. So we'd have a session on servicing, but the conversation would flow into origination products and capital market demand. We'd have a session on cybersecurity, but it would flow into pressures on closing timelines and valuation concerns on getting loans closed in a certain amount of time, which flowed right into the topic at hand of cybersecurity. So what ultimately was being highlighted is when there's pressure points on certain parts of the housing flow, from whether it's a lack of inventory, to taking too long to get an appraisal, to taking too long to close a loan, to maybe a rising rate environment. Those pressures put concern or overemphasis of focus in certain areas, which creates weakness in other parts of the market, which is why the all things housing theme is incredibly important. We can no longer think of the housing world in just the silo of mortgage origination or just the silo of what real estate agents want to tell you is happening in inventory. We have to connect all the dots. We have to think about what's happening in new home construction. We have to think about how new home prices and existing home prices are going to drive home buyer demand and home owner interest in selling or upgrading or refining. And then all of those factors will flow into how we have efficient servicing in secondary markets. And so the theme that kept coming up is no matter how hard we tried to focus a speaker or a panel or a session in a particular area, the dots kept getting connected. The web was being woven, and it's an incredibly interconnected housing economy. And that's what's most exciting to me about it. And that's what we really hope that we can do at HW Media, is better connect to the information and audiences and communities that will ultimately connect a more efficient and sustainable and profitable housing economy. Because if we stay siloed, I'm really concerned about our industry's ability to continue forward with the leaders that are in place today. That means that the disruptors will come. They are hungry for the market share. If you talk to a venture capitalist right now about why they are interested in real estate, 3 letters come up: TAM, tangible, addressable market. There are very few markets and very few segments of our economy where the profit potential is as large as housing. That puts a massive bullseye on our industry's back. And I say our industry because I care about the professionals that are in this today. I want to see the lenders that are out there working hard, serving homeowners, working real estate agents, innovate and also be the lenders that are successful in 5, 10, 20, 50 years. Same with the real estate side. I know there's going to be change. I know there's going to be evolution. I know there's going to be innovation and disruptors. But I think that the players who've been building and learning and serving homeowners for decades have an opportunity to really look at the interconnected nature of our housing economy and be the future that they really aspire to be.
Producer Jake here. Thanks for watching part of Dale's conversation with Clayton Collins, CEO of HousingWire, here on Batting 1000. You can watch the full conversation, plus gain access to new episodes by joining our exclusive members-only hub at dalevermillion.com/Diamond Club. Don't worry, even without joining, you can still watch excerpts of all future episodes for free right here on YouTube. Looking for more great content from Dale and our team? Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Just click the links in the description. And be sure to like and subscribe. Just click the bell icon and select all notifications to make sure you never miss any of Dale's free content. Okay, see you in the next video.